All right, Nick Kirby here, joined by Trace Fowler, switching roles as I do a little different in spring training. I do most of the hosting. Trace is coming on sort of as the guest in this show. You trust me, you won't have to see that in the regular season. You'll be back to what you know and love. But Trace, my friend, my boss, my everything, how you doing?
Yeah, well, now you make it sound like you brought me on because you had to or something. By the way, I did not ask, nor did I demand to be on the show. There's plenty of other things that are going on at Chatterbox that I'm trying to get a grasp on and get a hold on. It's nice to know, though. I must tell you, Nick, it's nice to know that hey, you open up the podcast app and there it is. Chatterbox Reds, new episode. What we're talking about, I don't know. Nick finds a way every single day. There's times where I'm like, well, spring training is what it is. How much stock can you put into it? And there goes Nick. He's got some headline. He's got something to talk about. And, you've been doing a great job. And you know what? It's nice to come on here as a guest. Hey, it's Chatterbox Reds.
The 13-1 loss to the A's where there was no TV was a bit of a challenge. I'll say that. But you know what? We found a way. We powered through. We lived to fight another day. Well, Trace, look, it's been an exciting start to spring training. It's spring training. Take it however you want to take it. It's been exciting. Elly's looked great. McLain's looked great. CES has looked great. Three of the guys that obviously, we're counting on the most this season. I know you probably are. It's funny. I think we switch roles. I think during spring training, I probably am the guy who gets a little too excited. During the regular season, you might be the guy who gets a little excited. What's kind of your overall takeaway so far?
Well, I think I put out a post the other day on X or Twitter or the Bluebird app, whatever we call that thing anymore. I put out a post that said, the long and short of it is, I've been pretty quiet about spring training, and largely because I just don't put a lot of stock into it. It doesn't mean it's not important. But it does mean that, you can get excited by the start of a season. And sometimes I think you start to put maybe a little too many chips in the middle of the table about what guys are doing or they're not doing in spring training. Sure, there's going to be a Klickenmeyer special at some point about somebody not doing something right. I still have screenshots last year about how Tony Kemp needs to make sure that, I think it was the young infielder should be worried about Tony Kemp. That's kind of what you get in spring training from sometimes. It's just like things that probably aren't the end of the world. But here's my thing about all of it. I'm going to try to play the opposite role as well. And I tell myself this, I know it's not going to work. It's just like when you're coaching basketball sometimes, Nick, it's like, you're not going to say nothing to the refs today, Trace. You're going to walk in there. If they make 5 bad calls, you don't say a word. After they make the first bad call, it just goes right out the window. So I am going to tell myself, and I've told myself, let's just try to get through May, Trace. Let the chips fall where they may. Let's let things settle down and figure out where guys are. Because, Nick, I don't think anybody knows. And I know when I say that, I mean Tito Francona doesn't even know who their first baseman's going to be right now. I don't think he knows who the third baseman's going to be right now. I don't think he completely knows exactly what that outfield's going to look like at the All-Star break. And I think that a lot of people would take that as a huge negative, and I understand why. And you want to have more linchpin type players and, periods, if you will, instead of question marks at the end of the day with all this. But I just would say it's okay to not know yet. And the spring training will play itself out. But more importantly, as I said in the post, is everyone stay healthy, because that's the thing that stopped and derailed this team last year, to at least see what we got, right? I'm not saying they would have made the playoffs, Nick. I'm not suggesting that they're one of the best teams in the National League. But if they didn't get hurt in the way that they got hurt last year, we would have a lot more answers right now. And that's just kind of my mindset with this whole thing at the beginning of this season.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty well with you on that. I'm honestly just can't wait just to get the season started and kind of figure out what this team is, because there's so much talk about Pacoda projections, and I love all that kind of stuff,
right.
But this team just doesn't really fit any of that. Like, if you're out here saying this team's gonna win 85 games, I'm super confident about it, I think you're smoking something. If you say this team stinks, they're gonna win 75 games, I don't know how you can really be definitive one way or the other. This is just gonna be a team we're just gonna have to find out what they are. But we were talking before we hit the record button. There's a player that you think is kind of a big key that maybe isn't being talking about as much. I know you're the expert of uniform numbers, as we were having some fun with that. Number 3 on the Reds uniform number is a big key this year.
I think he very much is. I mean, listen, I have come into this year expecting nothing out of Candelario. Quite literally nothing. And when I tell you nothing, I mean it's like the Will Myers type of nothing, where it's like a month and a half goes by, you get cut, and he goes away. Now, do I think Candelario is going to get cut after a month and a half? No. But I also quite honestly expected, based off what I had seen last year, that this is how guys' careers end. It's kind of like and I'm going to say it, but maybe I shouldn't say it. You kind of look like you're past your prime, maybe a little overweight. You look a little less athletic, and your numbers don't nearly appear like what they used to appear like. Now, to be fair to Candelario, he's had some bad years sandwiched into between some great years throughout his entire career. But my overall thing with Candelario is I know I made a funny joke about it, and I think people think I took it the negative. I was actually being positive with Candelario. He looks very nimble in the video and also spring training. He looks the part. And I know the quote, best shape of your life quote, is always overblown every spring training. But I genuinely mean this. If Candelario is capable of playing third base, it changes the dynamic of this team significantly. Significantly. And do I expect him to be able to do that on a daily basis and play at least a standard level or an average level defensively? I don't know. I'm not going to bet on it, Nick, but I definitely think it's something that not many people are at least discussing. They're not really having a conversation about, well, what if Candelario is capable of being an average defensive player? And maybe that's at first base. Maybe it's at third base. I don't know. But I do know this. We need the DH to be significantly better than it was last year. And a part of that is being able to take guys that probably are going to be maybe below average fielders and be able to put them there on a regular basis. And we just didn't have that last year. We quite frankly had a bunch of, platoon type players DHing. So I'm excited to see if Candelario is able to play the field. And if he is, I just think it's an undervalued thing that nobody's discussing.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Candelario had 20 home runs last year, was absolutely atrocious in April. Missed all of September, missed most of August, and was hurt in August and hurt several times throughout the year. So in terms of the Reds needing a power bat, I mean, there was 20 home runs and felt like he barely scratched the surface of how good he can be. Now, he's aging somewhat. It's not that old. I mean, he's only 31. He's not, 35 or anything like that. But the big power bat could be Jeimer Candelario. I don't think that's necessarily all that far-fetched. All right, I got one more topic I want to run by you today. We also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and an anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. I've been sad, Trace, watching Noelvi Marte because he's a guy that I believe in, and it's 15 spring training at bats. You don't want to make a big deal out of it, but it's just 15 spring training backs after a terrible winter league, after a terrible season last year. It keeps piling up on Noelvi Marte, and I don't like it.
Let's be honest. He's been absolutely atrocious since he's come back from, his suspension. And I think that you're battling two fronts when it comes to the suspension, right? At first you battle rust. The second part is you're going to battle some semblance of either confidence or lack thereof, and rumors that, whether they're true or not true, I don't know, but there's going to be rumors about whether or not you are only good at doing something because of the steroids that you took. Every single person that has gone through this steroid allegation situation has always been questioned as to why they were good in the first place. You know, Barry Bonds, and I'm not trying to go off the rails here, but Barry Bonds is a guy that if you bring his name up, there's some people that will just say, well, he took steroids. It's like, well, if he did, I understand why that kind of impacts things. But we can all, if you have a rational brain, understand that Barry Bonds is an unbelievable hitter, regardless of the steroids. That's the question mark with Noelvi, and I don't know if he's able to get past that. Here's what I would say with Noelvi. I hope that somebody puts their arm around him, and I know this sounds maybe a little too pushovery for a guy like myself to say, because I'm usually the one screaming and yelling after games, telling people this is a professional franchise. These guys get paid millions of dollars, and I'll be damned if we're going to sit here and just glad hand around all the time and try to act like, they shouldn't. It's okay that they're not doing their jobs. At some point on a human level, though, Noelvi is going to have to get somebody to embrace him and to tell him that they believe in him and try to get the kid's confidence back. And I know this sounds absolutely wild, but I've even thought of the idea of somebody, whether it's Tito or someone within the organization, of saying, hey, we know that you can be a great big leaguer, but what we'd like to do for you is to reset and refresh this whole thing. We're going to get you to Louisville by the All-Star break. But at the very beginning of all this, we're going to let you kind of get your feet wet and get some confidence back. I would start that kid in Dayton and let him listen to me. Let him absolutely tear the cover off the ball. And and if he doesn't, then I think, Nick, it says all it needs to say. Like it just let the kid work his way up. And it might only be for 3 weeks in Dayton and then a couple weeks in Chattanooga and then put him in Louisville. But I just need him to see the baseball like a beach ball again for just a short amount of time, because all it takes for him is, he hits 6, 7, 8 home runs in a month. And I just think that something stupid about the human brain, it lets you believe again. And it's something as simple as when you go shoot basketball, it's a smart idea to start off just making a couple free throws or making a layup or two before you go shoot a bunch of threes. Just give yourself a chance to see the ball go through the hoop. That's what we need Noelvi to do. And I know that seems maybe counterproductive for some people to think that way, but he has a chance to still be the same player that we've seen him be. And I want to remind everybody, we've seen him be a great player. And I do know this. If he's anything close to what he looked like in 2023, he is going to be able to help us within his 6-year window of eligibility for the Reds. And that's what's most important. So I know it's a wild take. I know it seems crazy that, you send him all the way down to Dayton. It's not a demotion. It's just like, hey, we want you to play. I would just make something up, make him feel good. I would just say, we want you to play close to Cincinnati so we can give you the resources that exist in Cincinnati, the workout facility, whatever it is, make something up. Okay. And then tell him you want him to play in a nice ballpark, and then we'll get you back where you need to go. If he wants to go to Dayton and then go to Louisville, we can do that too, Nick. I don't care. We just need to let the guy face some guys that might be bagging groceries at Kroger in a couple weeks, just so he can get the confidence level back up.
That's bold. That's bold. I like it. Trace coming on hot here on March 2nd, about to be March 3rd. Trace, my friend, great having you on. I'll see you every day this summer, so we'll do it again soon.
All right. See ya. Thanks, Nick.